Thank you. We are going to have the following people come up. Grace Mutung'u. Mutung'u is going to be the panelist for this. He's going to be the moderator for this panel, the morning panel. We are continuing, as you remember from yesterday, we didn't complete, we only had one discuss from the last session on democracy, big data and internet. We only had one discussant. So we are requesting that all the people who are supposed to discuss this can come up. Fidele, Kandikandi. Forgive me if I butcher your name. We'll have Abubaker, Karsan. Fidele is from the Republic of Burundi. Abubaker Karsan is the President Union Tanzania of Press Clubs. On the panel we are going to add Lillian Achom, who has a platform that he would like to share with us. Since the topic is democracy, big data and internet, Grace Achom is going to share a platform that they've developed for students, especially S4, S5, and S6 as you prepare to go to university, the data you need to access. The project is called Daraja Score. Thank you very much, and we encourage members to come and sit up front so that those who come late can go behind. And I promise when that is ready, I'll pick one by one. Thank you. I hand over to Grace.
Thank you, Gloria. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Thank you. As you've heard, our topic this morning is democracy, big data, and the internet. I think all of you have been concerned about what we are doing with data. There's a lot of data out there in the internet. In fact, maybe we can start by doing a little exercise. Please take out your pens or your notepads or wherever you write and write the following words. Write down: a woman without her man is useless. A woman without her man is useless. Please punctuate the sentence. Have you punctuated the sentence? So what do you have? Can somebody tell us what they have? What do you have? Sorry? Yes, but punctuate it. Put full stops, commas, whatever, so that it makes sense to you. So what do you have?
Exactly what you are saying right now. The woman without her man is useless.
Please, let's hear what he has. Very quickly.
A woman without her man is useless! Exclamation mark.
What do you have?
What do you have?
Question mark.
Question.
A woman without a man is useless? Question mark.
He has a question mark at the end of the I mean, people do it differently. Somebody will say a woman without her man is useless. Somebody else will say a woman without her man is useless. But the point is, there's so much data out there, and depending on how you package it, you come out with different interpretations of the same. I'm sure most of you have heard about the France and Google case, where France is unhappy with how the results appear in Google searches, and so somebody took Somebody in France took Google to court, and apparently they were told that they have to, do their searches. I mean, their searches have to appear in a different. It's about tweaking, how you tweak the data to come out. So without much further ado, we want to hear from our panelists about some of the things that they've been doing with the data and how the data is helping or not helping us to achieve democracy on the internet. I think we have one more panelist who will be joining us, and that is Brian Longwe. You can pick a seat. Yeah, who will be joining us anytime. But let's first hear from Mr. Fidele Kandikandi. He's from Burundi. He's from Burundi. He's going to tell us all about himself and what he's been doing with the data.
Thank you. I'm the floor. It's time, the morning, maybe we are still a bit sleepy. Before I go to the presentation, maybe I would like to introduce me a little bit more. I am a consultant, Moderator policy and regulatory matters, but I do also some kind of business process engineering. It's what I've been doing for the last 14 years or 15 years. I worked within the region. Some of you, I think I met some of you in several occasions. I worked in Comesa, I worked in the East African community, and now I just move around from there. So, now coming back to this presentation, the topic itself is quite complicated. Democracy, we talk about it every day, but up to now we don't know exactly whether we are getting to a destination, but we are trying. Big data. There's one speaker yesterday who pointed out that maybe if we could use some simple word, easy to understand. Because what we are seeing now these days, every year there is something new coming. That takes that require from all of us maybe a little bit of search or some documentation to understand what it is. Now we have internet that is there. We play with it. It is challenging us every day. Yesterday we were talking about the exhaust of numbering, also that is IPv4. Sometimes we don't know whether we should know as just a simple user, whether should be told about the exhaust or whatever. We need those from the industry to address the issue. So let me go to the presentation and see how we are going to tackle it. As I was saying, maybe I start by some definitions. And I have written some key issues: public participation, access, skills, securities. Some of these topics were covered yesterday. And we see what a forum like this one has as a role, whether we are playing it right in the right manner or whether we need to re-engineer ourselves. It will be more a subject that we call for discussion contribution. I'm not pretending to come up with some of the solution or some concrete proposal. Just ask you, all of you, to participate and give your input. Let's look at the definition of the democracy. It can be a system for choosing and replacing the government through free and fair elections. It is also characterized by free and active participation of the people as citizens in politics and civil life. It covers the dimension of protection of the human rights of all citizens, the rule of law, in which the laws and procedures apply equally to all citizens. Now, you can see that I put in bold participation of the people as citizens in politics and civil life. There is a reason for that. Now, what is expected from the population is a full participation in public life, with the right to be informed about public issues, to monitor how political leaders discharge their mandate, express freely their consent, opinion, interest, etc. So till recently, internet was seen as a powerful tool to spread democracy around the world. Maybe it is still the case in that. But some development brought to light some questionable practices, like mass surveillance at international level. We are all aware about this Edward Snowden, his WikiLeaks business. The various surveillance mechanisms at national level under the cover of security consent. I think this was touched a little bit yesterday, where maybe some government are shifting from maybe their major role of safeguarding integrity, and now they are moving to another shift where they want maybe to monitor who maybe the opposition or their opponents, what they are doing, and so on. So it's true that the internet has changed the way democratic forces operate, but the adjustment capacity is there to the power of each group has, the political leaders versus population, civil society, opposition. The issue is, for us, to which extent can we, as NGF members, influence and maintain a positive change? Now, we recognize that access to internet is tremendously increased thanks to mobile telephony with associated gadgets. Broadband infrastructure is developing in the region at a good pace, although the last mile connectivity is still a major issue. But there is a big but that is in red. From a democracy thinking perspective, do we know exactly where we stand? Yesterday, Masika was talking about the effort for ITU to gather data and so on, how we are having some difficult to provide the requested data. Okay. Now, do we know exactly where the number or the data about those who have compared to those who have not access to internet? This is a very good question. Yesterday, I think this is I don't know whether it's Kenya or where they're talking about the discussion forum that was more active when people are in the office. If we were all prevented to use our internet facilities for our own need, personal need, what would be really the pattern of access to internet? Can we respond to that question? Now, those who have, or compared to those who do not have access to energy, because this is a key element, we have urban area, rural areas, and so on. Now, those who know, compared to those who don't know how to use internet, having access is one thing, but how to use it properly. I was surprised recently, there is a young man who has just got his engineering degree from China. He was asking me to help him to get a document on internet. Can you imagine? It's difficult to believe, but this is the reality. Now, also, maybe some, what I was saying, those who cannot use internet responsibly. Because internet, if it can help you to get some information, some data, it can also cause you trouble. You can waste a lot of time trying to get references or other, because you are not sure whether you've got what you want and so on. So you spend maybe 80 times searching instead of doing what you're supposed to do. Or just being a kind of addict and play, navigate, look at movies or whatever and so on, instead of focusing on your primary objective or duty. Now, those who cannot who can not easily access to required ICT infrastructure. You can know how to use it, but you don't have what you need to develop your application, to do your business, or to support your business. All these are some of the issues. When we are talking about where we are moving, where we are lobbying to our public and private stakeholders, how to help us to develop our information infrastructure, do we have those data to sensitize? Because if we look at our traditional pattern, some of these data are not available, they are not collected. Can we do something to change it, to improve it? Having all these, the above data may facilitate the work of maybe the national IGFs, national chapters, but we have them. Now the question is, to which extent can we re-engineer ourselves as IGF members in order to influence the required improvement or changes in the way public and private stakeholders can play better their roles? The debate of pro and anti-matter stakeholders is now on. It was touched a bit yesterday, but these are some of the issues where we need really to rethink what kind of multi-stakeholder we need. But for that, we need to provide the right information so that can touch the sensibility of whoever has a role to play. Now, coming to big data, I just tried to do some quick search. This is one the diffusion IP. There are several of them. They said that big data is a popular term used to describe the exponential growth and availability of data, both structured and unstructured. And big data may be as important to business and society as the internet has become. Why? Because more data may lead to more accurate analysis. This is one of the definitions. More accurate analysis may lead to more confident decision making, and better decision can mean greater operational efficiencies, cost reduction, and reduced risk. So as I was saying, now coming back to maybe the introduction made by our moderator, if this data is not properly organized, if we don't know how to use it properly, we'll be wasting a lot of time because we have these data scattered all over, and it will be difficult to get the element we need really to make our informed decisions. The other definition is big data is a buzzword or catchphrase used to describe massive volume of both structured and unstructured. So in most enterprise scenarios, the volume of data is too big, or it moves too fast, or it exceeds current processing capacity. Okay, it is a potential to help, but provided we know how to use it. Now, where are we in EAC region? Those are the subjects open to discussion to this forum. Infrastructures, where are we? Skills. Skills to use, skills to develop, skills to implement at all levels. Where are we exactly? Data storage capacity and security. This was touched yesterday. Where are we? What can we do for a change? Democratic access to content for all. Knowing that maybe there's some need for children, child protection. We have maybe some, those who are not elderly, we have adult, we have whatever and so on. But still, we are talking about the concept of the democratic access for content. Security, privacy, and so those are the issues open for discussion, and maybe to help define what should be the topics these items should be, what our IGF should concentrate on. We know that the term of reference for the IGFs is just policy dialogue, sensitization, advocate, lobbying, awareness, environmental coordination. But let me share with you this quote. He said that people don't plan to fail. Instead, they fail to plan. So how are we planning? How are we conducting our business as IGF members? as national chapters. Can we compare from the beginning up to now, from one year to another, whether we are making progress, whether we are just turning around? I don't know. This is subject to discussion. So there is a need for a more coordinated approach. Maybe just this thinking, can we set up an East Africa platform to facilitate the interaction on internet governance issues, identify common priority topics to be covered by all East African chapters, create a basis to measure progress made from one IGF, East African IGF, to another. Those are some of the thinking. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Fidele. I think from his presentation, we've gotten quite a number of basic and he's laid a very good background for the further discussions that we'll have. And he's also pointed out most of the challenges with big data, especially in our region, where we have not really planned for it. So we don't really have a good framework for issues like privacy, for issues like security, and so on. And maybe it's good to point out at this point that there has been an initiative in Kenya about big data, and there's quite a lot happening. I mean, the government of Kenya has this big portal where they put all the information on things like schools, schools per county, household surveys, and so on. And the question is what people will do with that data, how they're going to use it, and whether it is we locals who are going to use it, or whether it is people from out there who are going to come and package the data for us. Yeah, and one thing I like about Tanzania, I don't know how many of you like gossip blogs. I know all of you visit them after work, not at work, after work. And one thing I like about Tanzania is that they are normally so localized. You can find a whole gossip blog in Swahili, and with a lot of comments still in Swahili. I don't know, sometimes I wonder how many of you can even write in your mother tongue, let alone Swahili. I mean, I don't, how many of you even know what the Swahili word for internet is? Only a Tanzanian would. And so let's hear from Tanzania, not about the gossip blogs, but let's hear from Tanzania about the issue of democracy and big data and the internet. So welcome, Mr. Abubaker Karsan. Please introduce yourself and go on to your presentation.
Thank you. First of all, let me correct my title. In the paper, it has been written that I'm the president of the Union of Tanzania Press Club. No, it's not. I am the executive director. The president is here. I will take this discussion to a different level. I want to put this discussion in a context of a very ordinary person, a VOP. First of all, can democracy survive without internet? Can internet survive without democracy? Can internet hijack democracy? These are the questions which I want you to answer. I will not answer them, but you will do it here. Now, who decide who can access internet? Who decide what amount of internet a certain person should have and a certain person should not have? And why? Is internet for politicians? Is internet for development? Or rather, should I ask, is internet a right or a freedom? Now, we have a lot of big data. But what is the biggest data in any country? Apart from the explanation that you have got here today, what is the biggest data? I think the biggest data is the election results. That is the biggest data. Now, if we have internet and we have a data somewhere, then the internet should improve the knowledge of the people by knowing what their government is doing. It should promote interaction among people. It should explain the role of the media in the development of a country, because a lot of data is being used by the journalists. Do they use this data religiously justifiable? Do they tell us the truth? Do they tell us lies? So, if you have an internet that does not improve the people's life, does not improve how people interact, does not improve how the people could tell their government what to do, then internet will be a failure. That is my presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, Abubaker. I don't know whether we shall also have questions to him, because he has left us with a lot of questions. And so we are at the point where we have the definitions. We are at the point where we have framework questions that spell out the framework for us in this debate. But we must also ask ourselves, what are some of the things, even if it's at a small scale, what are some of the things that we have done with data on the internet locally in East Africa, in each of our individual countries? And so let us hear from Lillian Achom of the Rajascore, who is going to tell us some of the things that she's doing with data. Welcome, Lillian.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, I'll demo for you the portal that we have. It's eHub and e-education hub. We have this is something for students, O level, right from senior 1 to senior 6. If you've been in Uganda, you know the procedure for joining the university. One is there are ways of computing our points in order to join the university, and then there is that period where we have to apply. There are application forms where we have to put in our choices in order to join the universities. But from my personal experience and from the research that I've done among the students, there is very limited information. The information is there, fine, in hard copies, given to the students, but normally just a few days to their exams. And so the challenge has been that students, despite the good performance, students still fail to join universities, some of them, simply because of making the wrong choices at the university, making wrong choices. Some of them, someone puts Bachelor of Civil Engineering first choice, Telecom Engineering second choice, such, and yet you find that all those programs are really competitive. So we've come up with this portal which has an entire database of all the university programs in Uganda. Of course, we shall expand, there's room for expansion. And so the system, the portal enables the student to access this information such that right from a lower level, say senior 3 or senior 2, they always, every time they visit, every time they do an exam, they can always visit the website to monitor their performance. It's more of a study motivation tool. You can go on the portal and then put your grades and find out where exactly do you lie with your grades. If it's an O-level student, it helps them to know that, okay, the O-level results really do account for university entry. Because from our research, we found out that quite a number of students at O-level really do not know that O-level results does account for their university entry. So with that information, it helps them to guide them. For the A-level students, right from senior 5, every time they do a test, they can go online and find out their grade. The system is comprehensive. It incorporates in the feminine, the 1.5 for the affirmative, then the O-level results as well, everything, such that just the way the public universities do their computation, that's exactly how we put it. So it's just one portal. Allow me to just demo for you. And we've called it Daraja Score. Daraja, if you're familiar with Swahili, it's a word to mean grade. So you can just call it a grade score. So a student simply goes on or clicks on that link. Now, there's a lot more information that we've got as feedback from the teachers, the schools, that they need more of this information that we are trying to put online. So once you go on that, the student is able to choose which country do I want to study in. Now, there are those of us in the East African region who want to switch universities. You can go on to select which country you want to go to. Then from there, when you choose, for instance, Uganda, we have the list of the universities under Uganda. Say a student wants to join Makerere University and she is a female. So then it takes them under Makerere University. We have all the colleges listed. So with that, maybe someone is doing PCB sciences and wants to do medicine under the health sciences. Here we have all the programs under the college, health sciences college under Makerere. So if the student wants to join medicine, now this is where the important part of it. We have the cutoff points from the most recent from the most recent results. For instance, the ones for 2015-2016, we are updating, we've already updated for Makerere University. So we have for both government and private sponsorship. The 1.5 here shows the fact that I chose female. In Uganda, there is that 1.5, as we all know. So this, then below here, it then shows what are the subjects a student should have done in order to qualify for medicine at Makerere University. So all the student has to do is to choose what grade did I get. For instance, under essential, relevant, desirable, and O-level and all that, we have under essential for medicine, a student should have done biology and chemistry. So all they have to do is to choose, I got an A. And automatically, the result is just the way it is, because essential it has its own computation. So that's how it keeps on accumulating. Say they got a B in chemistry, then one better than of either physics or maths. Say the person got a B in physics, And then for general paper, it's always a 1. All these desirables are 1, whether you got an A or something. Then if you're in senior 5, it means you should have done O-level. So here it tells you how many distinctions did you get in O-level. So the student should be able to remember that, and then how many maybe credits. In total for O-level, the student maybe did 10 subjects. So then here, it helps the student, if they still have the time, say they're in senior 5, it helps them to say, okay, with this, last year's cutoff point was a bit high. So with my performance, if I'm to put the choice as first choice, I might not really qualify. So either I up my performance in all these and get AAA to stand a better chance, or I can look for another program. I go for another program within Makerere, under which probably still suits my performance. Yeah, maybe something like that, the radiography. So it gives them the other programs and other choices. Now, apart from, if they see that Makerere, for instance, is tight for them, the competition is tight, then someone has the choice to go and choose another university. So basically, this is the portal we are putting in place. Thank you.
Lights.
Thank you, Lillian. I don't know what the experience is in your country, but for a long time, the whole issue of university admission, especially for government-sponsored students, has always been something that you hope. You sit at home in hope that you'll be admitted to the course that you want. And so it's interesting that your project has been able to debunk or demystify the whole procedure and process of university admission. I just wonder to what extent you are involved in policy processes of, because for example, speaking of my own country, Kenya, I know the whole criteria for university admission is always changing from year to year. So, and this is of course a question you can answer during the plenary. I was just wondering, as I was listening to your presentation, to what level you involved or you follow the policy processes so that you can also update your project accordingly. Okay. When Fidele was presenting, I remember one of the questions he asked is whether you have access in the first place in order to talk about democracy on the internet, or in order to talk about big data. And our next presenter, Brian Longwe, is going to be talking to us about access in the first place before we go to talk about democracy and big data. And so, without much further ado, I'll ask Brian to introduce himself and make his presentation. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you very much, Grace. I'll not be using a presentation or PowerPoint presentation as probably I would be used to. I seem to have encountered some challenges with my laptop. Crashed last night, and unfortunately I have to use the offline mode. What were we talking about yesterday? Safe mode. But nevertheless, I think that what I'm here to talk to you about is actually more experiential. The presentation itself was more about sharing some of the images about the work that we have been doing in northern Uganda. I think what I'll do first of all, just to set the context right, is to say a little bit about myself, say a little bit about the organization that I work for, the work that we have been doing, and then I'll just jump straight into the actual substance of what I'm here to talk to you about. Reminding you that the topic that I was supposed to address is connecting the next billion. You know, what are some of the lessons that we've learned? How are we going to address that? How are we going to get more people connected in the future? As I said, my name is Brian. I think Grace already mentioned that. I have about now probably 23 years in the IT industry within the region. Most of those years have been in Kenya. I'm a Kenyan national. And about 15 of those have been building internet infrastructure and delivering internet services. I started one of the first ISPs in Kenya back in 1996. I was a technical manager back then, and since then I've been able to start up and more or less successfully operate about 4 different internet service providers, all with different approaches, angles, etc. 3 of those were in Kenya, and the most recent one is here in Uganda, and that's what I'll sort of be talking a little bit about. So I think if we're talking about addressing the issues of connecting our communities to the internet, I think I've learned 1 or 2 things over that past 15 years, or at least that's what you'd imagine. But one of the things that surprised me very much is just over the last 2.5 years that I have been up in the north of Uganda in Gulu. That's where my project is based. I think I've learned more over that last 2.5 years than I did over the preceding 13 years. In terms of dealing face-to-face and head-on with some very real issues that affect our countries, some very real issues that affect our communities. The project that I work on, I work for an organization called Oxfam. For those of you who know about INGOs or international NGOs, you probably think or hear the name Oxfam and associate them with humanitarian aid, gender advocacy. You associate the name Oxfam with anything to do with injustice. Largely, Oxfam is a rights-based organization working all around the world to create a more equal and inclusive society, and especially to address injustices. However, this project that I have been responsible for up in northern Uganda, it's called Internet Now, and it was a very different and new type of project for Oxfam, in that it involved going into northern Uganda, setting up, the objective was to set up a social enterprise that would then use internet-driven technologies to help improve livelihoods. A question that I have encountered consistently ever since I came here to Uganda, especially from the Ugandans, and you know yourselves very well, is why Gulu? You come, you say you want to do this Internet Now project. Why Gulu? Why would you go there? I don't know. How many of you here have been up in the north? How many of you have been up to Gulu? That's a good number. Very interesting. A lot of people generally tend to think of Gulu as this sort of deep, dark, and lost part of the country, which had so many years of war. There are all these horror stories about the Lord's Resistance Army, Joseph Kony. There's been so many years of conflict, and it is true. They had over 21 years of conflict. The communities there have been scarred deeply. They're still even now recovering. A lot of people are suffering from PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome, PTSD. A lot of people still have conditions which go back to the pain and the struggles that they went through during the years that they were suffering. The conflict there caused a lot of displacement. There were a lot of refugees. People ran across the border into South Sudan. People came down south. People went east. People went west. So over the past about 12 years of relative peace or of peace, you have a situation where you have a lot of people coming back. There have been a lot of returning, communities, returning individuals. You have a situation where the levels of education are a bit strange, in that you find it's mainly the young people below the age of 11 who have really been able to get the benefits of consistent education. Anybody above the age of 11 has had gaps, some very, very significant gaps in their education. One of the women groups we work in, I had a touching experience early last year, where we took some visitors out to see this women group up in the village, where we have a center where they've been sort of learning how to use the internet and different things. And at the end of just a sort of small interaction that we were having with them, one of the women shyly puts up her hands and she says, please, I would ask you all to pray with me. On Monday, I'm starting my son at 7 exams. This woman is 28 years old, but she really wanted to get educated, at least have basic education, just to be able to help herself to take better care of her children, etc., etc. So the North is a environment which is tough. It's been, because of the years of conflict, and to a certain extent, and I'll be very bold in saying this, and I hope I don't get arrested as I'm walking out of here. During the duration of this regime that is currently governing, most of the opposition has been coming from the North. So it also is a neglected region. It has been a neglected region. When I got to Gulu, there was hardly any infrastructure. A distance of 340 kilometers was taking about 8 hours of driving. Where in other, you drive 340 kilometers, go towards Mbarara, Kabale. You'll be there within, 3-4 hours? Easy. Because the roads are smooth all the way. Getting to Gulu, 340 kilometers, 8 good hours, either way. There's been some improvements over the past couple of years, but it still does take about 6 to 7 hours to get up there and to get back. That's one of the examples that I would use to talk about infrastructure deprivation. Power grid. And I'll talk about Gulu town. Gulu town has a population of about 250,000. It's a small town. The CBD is really, really small, the central business district of Gulu. The moment you get about 2 kilometers away from the center of the city, there's no power grid in many different directions. No fixed power. So we went into Gulu with a big vision. We are going to use internet technologies to improve the livelihoods of people in the north. We felt that we chose Gulu because it's a tough environment. There were a lot of challenges to be overcome, but we said, if this model works here, then it is likely that it will be able to work anywhere else in the world. So we also wanted to challenge ourselves and also test the concept. The Internet Now project, since we went into the north, has been able to establish a number of different centers across 5 different districts, not only Gulu, but also Moyo, Amuru, Nwoya, and we've set up about 20 community centers. That's centers at village level, at the sub-county level. The way in which we've done it is slightly innovative, not very innovative. If you go up that way, you will see what looks like shipping containers. Those are some of the images that I've shown you. I think maybe you'll see some of them scrolling past, some white and orange containers. What looks like shipping containers. The innovation there was that they ship flat packed. So on the normal amount of space that you'd have on a truck to deploy a single, that would carry a single container, you can actually carry about 5 because they ship flat packed. The moment you get to the location, you build them out, open them up. They already have inbuilt doors, windows, floors, wiring, lighting fixtures. So it becomes a 2-day affair to actually set up a center where people can actually move in, sit down and start working. We use solar technology for everything, literally everything. The way in which we connect the centers, we use low-cost wireless technology using a license-free spectrum, 5.8 gigahertz for those of you who are technically minded. And that allows us to create a single private network, more or less, that links all of these centers to each other. In Gulu itself, we have what we call our network hub, through which we now are able to procure internet bandwidth or internet capacity, wholesale, and then distribute it across this entire network for the different services and purposes that we deliver. When we got into Gulu about 3 years ago, the only options that we had for internet access was through the mobile operators. Your UTL, Orange, Airtel, MTN. So we used them for a while, but the whole principle that drove us there was in the interactions building up to the project, we talked closely with the Ministry of ICT, with the National IT Authority, and they told us, hey, we're building our national backbone, our national fiber optic backbone, and we will be in Gulu. We will be in Gulu by the end of 2012. In actual fact, the fiber optic backbone only was switched on towards the end of 2013. So we had to wait quite a bit before we could be able to connect into the fiber optic backbone. And during that time, we used the services of these mobile operators, and we tried all of them. One of the things we were able to establish, and this is now where I begin to share some of the lessons we've learned, and I'll be wrapping up soon. So, in the north, just as in many rural areas in our countries, most of the time, the only option you have to be able to get internet access is a mobile operator. The tendency, because most of these rural communities do not necessarily have that much buying power, the tendency is that the mobile operators establish the infrastructure there more out of their regulatory obligation than out of them seeing a business opportunity. So they really don't put a lot of effort into it. So you go up country or you go into these rural areas and you find that the quality of service is pathetic. It's extremely terrible. Additionally, you find that the cost is up there. For us, we were purchasing dedicated capacity. And at the time, and even till now, the mobile operators will supply you, even here in Kampala, with 1 megabit of internet capacity at $500. That's an important figure to keep in your mind. They will sell you 1 megabit of internet capacity at $500. So for about 13, roughly, months, 14 months, we were purchasing our internet capacity at that price. And we were buying quite a bit of bandwidth, about 20 meg. So we're spending $10,000 a month just to get the internet access that we would use to distribute to all our centers for all the different activities. And I'll talk a bit about the activities so that you can understand why were we buying this internet bandwidth. But it's important to keep that number in mind, the cost at which we were procuring the internet bandwidth. Eventually, the national backbone was completed all the way up to Gulu, and we were very happy when it was switched on, and we were able to connect directly into the fiber optic network and obtain high-speed access into Kampala, where we were able to now shake hands with many of the submarine network operators that had been able to bring in their capacity all the way from Mombasa and Dar es Salaam into Kampala. We tried talking to a number of them to ask them, can you guys, meet us in Gulu so that we don't have to pay the cost of coming down to Kampala, but not all of them had that, in their business plans. There was only one operator who was going and providing services into southern Sudan. So their infrastructure was passing through Gulu and then going via Nimule into Juba. So we were able to shake hands with them in Gulu and purchase capacity from them. And for the others that we've been able to connect to, we've been able to purchase capacity from them here in Kampala. What are some of the services that we have been offering to the community to be able to improve their livelihoods? Because I think, internet and livelihoods are not normally the things that you find in the same sentence. And yet here we are looking to go in and use internet technologies to improve livelihoods. So one of the biggest challenges up north, just as it is in many other parts of Uganda, is unemployment. With other parts of Uganda, you have 80% unemployed. In Gulu, because of their historical situation and all of that, you have 80% unemployable. 80% who have no skills to speak of. 80% who really aren't able to actually seek out viable employment because they've not really had the opportunity to develop any kind of vocational skills, etc., etc., etc. So one of the things we decided to do, ICT training as a start. Free ICT training through all of our different centers. Over the past about 2.5, 3 years, we've been able to train about 4,000 via all of the different centers that we have. What we do, we go in, we establish a center, we hire somebody from the community, we train them in our methodology, we make them responsible for that center. We engage the community. I left my bio there. Can I get that? Yeah, sure. Can I borrow one of the pens? Or let me pick it. Sorry. We found that, and this is the second lesson that I'm going to share, community engagement has been quite critical in terms of ensuring buy-in, protection of our infrastructure. I was sharing yesterday a little bit about this with somebody during the cocktail, and they were like, wow, you've installed solar equipment on all these centers, you have computers in them, you've got all this, expensive stuff, fancy. Haven't you had any incidences of theft? And I told him, no, we haven't actually. And he's like, wow, that's incredible. How did that happen? And how it happened is because when we go in to set up the center, before we even start breaking ground to establish it, first thing we do is we set up a community advisory committee. The community advisory committee consists of 15 individuals, and we ask the community to nominate the people who will be on that community advisory committee. We say there must be some women, there must be some local leaders, there must be youth, there must be some of the, what you'd call, people who are involved in public service within the community. But we allow them then to decide who is going to be on that community advisory committee. Then we allow them to choose their own chairperson. And once they've organized that, we then now give them the training and we tell them, okay guys, this is what the project is all about. We are coming in, we are setting up this center, it belongs to you. This is your center. And without your assurance that you will be able to take care of this center and you will be able to ensure that it's protected, we are not going to go ahead and set it up. We talk to them about the benefits that the center is going to bring, etc., etc., and they then If they commit to it, we then go in and put it up. So over the past 2.5 years, we've had barely any incidents of theft. We've had attempts, but most of the time what happens is the attempts are detected by the community, they deal with the perpetrators, and then they call us the next day to say, hey, by the way, yesterday somebody tried to break into the center, we've sorted it out, but can you come and repair a window which is cracked? Or can you come and repair a door which is a bit broken? They try to, get in that way. And most of the time, that's what has happened. But those incidents have been few and far between. So community engagement is a very key element of any intervention that is going into the rural communities. The national backbone was a big boon. I remember I told you about keeping the number in your minds. $500 per meg. Not only were we paying that for internet access, everybody else who needed internet was paying the same. Of course, there was the mobile internet with bundles, etc. So, the prices were the same as here in Kampala. So for most individuals, that's what they were using. But for corporates, you find a corporate that needs 2 meg. You find a corporate that needs to do video conferencing, etc. They need dedicated connectivity. So they were trying to buy dedicated connectivity from mobile operators and spending that amount of money. And the quality of service was terrible. So after about a year on the ground, we said, hey, as one of the additional activities that we're doing, why don't we roll out an ISP? We have the capacity, we buy a lot of bandwidth, and sometimes it's idle. So why don't we apply for an ISP license, roll out an ISP, and not only provide our own needs, but also offer quality services to the community. And that's how what we call Zoom Wireless was born. Maybe you can scroll a bit further down. You got services. Yeah, just leave it there. So that's how Zoom Wireless was born. We set up the network, everything, the infrastructure. Early last year, I think by June, July, it was all set up and running. But we had a bit of a hitch with our licensing, which took a little bit longer than we expected. So services were actually only activated this year in February, when the license was issued by UCC. But since the license has been issued, Zoom Wireless has been able to connect about 90% of all the corporates and businesses in Gulu that need internet connectivity. 90% of them are using Zoom Wireless. One of the main reasons why they're using Zoom Wireless is one, price. We are giving them access from the $500 that they were paying for 1 meg, they're now buying it from Zoom Wireless at $40. And Zoom is still making a profit. And this is probably the second lesson that I'd like, or the third lesson that I'd like to share with the group here today. And I'm sorry, I know there's a couple of ISPs here, Ugandan ISPs. I'm sorry here, I'm going to have to step on your feet. Everybody complains about the cost of internet access being high. It is not. It is not high. With the advent of the submarine cables, the cost per meg of wholesale internet capacity came down so low for the ISPs that they have been making obscene profits by maintaining their price levels at the levels that you have been purchasing them at over the past, 5 years? Submarine cables landed in 2010. So for the past 5 years, I'm sorry to say that most of the East African ISPs have been killing the community and milking you guys dry, because the cost of wholesale bandwidth is so low. They can be able to offer capacity at unheard of prices. We are selling 1 meg at $40 and we're still making a profit. But today you go to any ISP here in Kampala, you want to buy 1 meg, minimum. In most cases you'll be asked to pay $200 for the lowest. And it's pretty much the same across the region. So yesterday when a couple of government, I just restrained myself from talking. I'll be wrapping up. From intervening, because I didn't want to blow this fish out of the water too soon. But somehow, as ISPs, the industry has been able to pull the wool even over the government's eyes and over our regulators' eyes by creating all kinds of illusions, smokes and mirrors, around the costs that they have to incur to be able to bring the bandwidth to consumers. They're ripping us off. And this is a message that probably needs to go beyond these walls. Consumer action, advocacy, etc., etc. You'll be able to get your prices down much lower. Infrastructure deployment is the third lesson that I'd like to share, or fourth lesson that I'd like to share. The cost of deploying a mobile base station to be able to connect subscribers is somewhere in the region of about $30,000. With the low-cost wireless technology that we've been using, we've been able to deploy a point of presence for $2,000 that will be able to connect upwards of 400 to 500 users across a 10 to 12 kilometer radius. So that's one of the other things that we've been able to learn as a lesson. And the most amazing part about this is the equipment that we've been using, which is very readily available. There's nothing special about it. It's available from many different types of vendors. Is not only low cost, but it also has a very low power footprint. So all of our points of presence are solar powered. So we don't have to worry about umeme going off. We don't have to worry about power fluctuations, as long as we ensure that we have enough solar panels, enough batteries, so that during the daylight hours or the hours of sunshine, the sufficient power can be captured, stored in the batteries, and feed the equipment to ensure that it's running 24 hours. So as long as you get the sizing right and the proportions, you're able to have a 24/7 seamless network. And this is one of the things that has facilitated a rapid rollout of services. I mentioned that Zoom Wireless started offering services in Gulu in February. Today, Zoom has been able to expand into Lira, into Soroti, and into Mbale. Actually, this month they were supposed to be going into Masindi and Arua, but the board of directors decided, hey, wow, that was so fast, you guys are already in 4 towns. Let's hold on, capitalize on the presence in those towns, sign up as many subscribers before we continue doing capital expenditure to go into the other towns. But one of the reasons behind the quick expansion was the low cost of capital required, or well, not low cost of capital, the low levels of capital required to be able to go into a city or a town and actually provide pervasive coverage. So low-cost wireless technologies are enabling us to be able to very quickly get into different locations and bridge the last mile. The principal factor that has allowed us to get into all these locations so fast is because of the national backbone. So I go back to one of the earlier lessons I mentioned. The essence of a national backbone is critical, and I think that's one of probably the take-homes that we can be able to push to, the global IGF. Countries that have not yet deployed national fiber optic backbones ought to consider deployment of those national fiber optic backbones, connect as many towns, communities as possible, because what that does, it takes away a very big headache for ISPs, and it allows them to get in very fast, because with the capacity that we purchase from the national backbone, we just tell them, okay, drop off X number of megabits in Gulu, drop off X number of megabits in Lira, drop off X number of megabits in Soroti, X number of megabits in Mbale, and then in those locations we just plug into the network and broadcast our signal, and we're able very quickly to connect the communities. Final lesson that I'd like to share, and this one has nothing to do with technology, is about gender. And one of the things that we found is that people using the internet, the awareness, the preparedness, the readiness to interact and engage with anything to do with technology, because of our cultural backgrounds, there's a tendency for women to be discouraged. Some of them very actively, and some of them passively. Either they're just not given permission to engage with their girls, or with, maybe going to visit centers where they can learn about technology, or they are very, very aggressively told, no, that's not acceptable. And one of the things that we've been able to find that has worked for us is something called the GALS methodology. And I think this is a new term for many of you. But GALS is basically something called the Gender Action Learning System. It's a methodology, a set of tools that was actually developed here in Uganda by Oxfam, working together with IFAD and a couple of different other organizations. And it's now being used worldwide, especially in Africa, across a number of countries, and outside of Africa in a number of developing countries. The Gender Action Learning System is a set of tools which basically uses more of visual rather than written materials. It brings households together, it brings families together and equips them and teaches them how to develop individual visions as well as household visions. It teaches them to, in the process of developing these visions, understand and appreciate all the different types of work that are needed to achieve those visions, including the current situation, and to distribute equitably, or as equitably as possible, responsibilities. And this not only has been able to open up the eyes of many men who, in most cases in our communities, are the leaders of the home, and allow them to have a better appreciation of the women and the children, but it has also been able to open up the eyes of the women and allow them to speak up and participate in family decision making and negotiate to a certain extent their needs and their interests, and find innovative and gender equitable solutions in terms of their livelihoods, planning, and value chain development. So we've been using the GALS methodology in a number of our interventions, and this has been able to help many of the communities we work in bring more and more women over into technology. The final point I'd like to share before I sit down is employment creation. Through business process outsourcing, you see the first item that we have there. We have been using a specialized form of business process outsourcing. Now, for those of you who may not be aware of what business process outsourcing, it's getting jobs from mostly developed countries where the cost of labor is high, and doing those jobs locally where the cost of labor is low, and delivering the completed work to those localities, thereby enabling them to save some money, but at the same time also creating employment for the locals. Now, the specialized form of BPO that we use is called impact sourcing or micro work, where we take a task that probably any of you here would be able to complete maybe within an hour or individually. We break it up into many small pieces. And we then provide training to these people that we work with, who, may not necessarily have any real technical or, other kinds of skills. We just provide them with the training that they need just to be able to deliver on those tasks. Just to be able to deliver on those tasks. And they take those micro tasks, they complete them, they deliver them. We have a quality control system that is able to capture all the tasks, aggregate them back into a completed job, and then push them across to the provider. We've been doing this now for the past 2.5 years. We've gotten a lot of work, most of it coming from Silicon Valley in the US, San Francisco mostly. And through it, we've been able to provide employment on a daily basis to approximately 500 people in total. On a daily basis, we are able to employ between 40 to 150 people, depending on the volumes of work that we get from the other side. So when we get huge volumes, we have to now deploy more workers to sit down and get the work done. And that's when the numbers go up into the levels of 150. We have a center in Gulu, at Gulu University, which has 75 workstations, and most of the work happens there. And then we have 20 community centers scattered across the villages. And at each of those centers, we dedicate 5 workstations for micro work or for BPO. So when there's a lot of work, we call in the members of the community that have gone through the ICT training and that have been able to get the specialized training for each project that comes our way, and we give them the work to do. Through this, we have a lot of stories, and I won't go into them, but people's lives have been changed. You know, somebody who previously had nothing and didn't have any outlook in their lives or any hope or for employment, all of a sudden is able within just a short period of time to get to a point where they're earning about maybe 400,000 or 500,000 a month. And many of them have been able to take themselves to school, have been able to pay their own university fees, are paying for their siblings, have started their own small businesses with the monies that they're earning from this. So I'll end my presentation there. Sorry, it was a bit lengthy, I guess because I didn't have my pictures. But thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Brian. After listening to his presentation and about this business model, because they're making money, but at the same time they're connecting people. I don't know how many of you believe that it's something that can be replicated to connect the 1 billion or so people who do not have access to the internet. Yeah? I thought so too. So thank you, Brian, for your presentation. I'm going to open this to plenary. I am sure you had a few questions for all the panelists. So by a show of hands, let's see how many. Okay, today we can start from that side. So let's start with Lillian, and then we'll come to Grace, and then to Ali, and then to the gentleman there eventually.
Good morning. My name is Alona Simiyu, working with the Ministry of ICT. I wish to thank very much your presentation. It has been very, very, very rich, Brian. And we encourage you maybe to bring it also to Kampala, if possible, so that so many of our students who have finished university can also benefit in that program. Thank you.
My question is directed to Brian. My name is Grace Lillian. Brian, just listening to you, the project sounds so fascinating. My concern though is what happens when you exit? Because we've had such great programs, I think, in the region that are donor supported. But once the donor exits, then that project just dies, or the community will continue trying to look for donors. So what sustainability mechanisms are you putting in place, and what strategies are you putting in place after the donor exit? Thanks.
Thank you very much, Grace and the presenter, the panelists. I would like to make a small comment. I'm one of the privileged who have visited Brian's facility, and I would like to recommend the work you're doing there. Thank you very much. And as he has already mentioned, you can say it's just a comment, it's not a question. You can say there's government will to make sure that we connect the last mile. Through RCDF, through the national backbone, government is trying to do something like that. Well, regarding the donor support, I know most of the BPO companies here in Uganda are located, we commend you by the way, most of them are located in Mukono, the farthest is in Jinja. So you can see him going to Gulu and doing something there. He's taking jobs there, he's doing the training, and he's trying to get internet to that last mile. That said, we are encouraging that as exit strategy for all other companies that are in the region that are doing the same. You go look out for business from companies other than outside, other than waiting for the person who has been supporting you to keep getting you the business. So the business model right now is we do the training, you go out and look for business within maybe US, UK, and then also within Uganda we have enough business process outsourcing that can be undertaken through the bank, through the insurance companies. So that is how we are trying to tackle, but I'll let Brian do the other. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace and speakers. I think this has been a very interesting morning. I would like to address two issues. One on the governance issue regarding big data and all that. I think one of the key things is to ensure that every one of us is continuously evangelizing the need of having governments, organizations, and individuals share information, especially when it comes to governance. I would agree with my Tanzanian friend, brother, that data, sort of a slight change from what he says, most of the data comes from government because we are the government. So we need to ensure that we have access to that data as much as possible. From Brian's perspective, I'm really excited with what he's doing, and I want to assure my sister Grace that there is a new breed of African social entrepreneur that it doesn't necessarily require donor funding or are really taking up where donors have stopped, because people, as human beings, our nature is to ensure that we like information, we want to engage, we are social animals. So the fact that there's no internet, or rather there was no internet in Gulu or no internet in Lamu, doesn't mean that people don't have the money to actually use it. I think some of the interesting statistics in Kenya, you're finding that someone is actually debating, should he buy internet bundles or buy breakfast? It's at that level. So we, as human beings, I think we are getting at that point where we as entrepreneurs, as government, as civil societies need to come together and create sustainable businesses in this space. Brian, thank you very much. That's really great work you're doing.
Thank you. My name is Nathan Balekachi, ISOC Uganda member. This goes to Brian on connecting the next billion. I don't know how far you've gotten connecting countries that are left out, like South Sudan, and people like us who are business people who are interested in the countries. I have been there, and trust me, connectivity is just disappointing. And I feel, especially at this point when we talk about this African community, yeah, we need to bring them on board. Thank you.
Thank you. Was there another hand on this side? Yes.
Brian, thank you for that nice presentation you made. The only thing I would want to be clarified on is about the submarine cables which were introduced in 2010. I don't know, does that mean that internet access would be free to everyone or at a lower cost? Because, for instance, right now, I'm using a BlackBerry. That means I need to always subscribe for like a monthly package which costs around 20,000. That is really high depending on the rising standards of living. So, about the submarine cables, does that mean the rate would be lower, or actually we could even access it free? Because seriously, if I understand this, I might be helping more people out there who have not got this chance. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take those questions and plead with the panelists to just answer the questions as briefly as possible. And I don't know whether we could also get a comment from Gloria on behalf of the government, since you're the only one left on the row where government was sitting, on some of the questions that have been asked. But we'll start with Lillian in answering the questions, and I'll also ask the panelists, as you're answering the questions, maybe you also to give your concluding remarks.
Yes, so just to respond to the question that you posed, to what extent do we involve the policy to get the updates? This information about the education, the cutoff points, the programs are available within the universities, but we are also working with the Ministry of Education, that we're in touch. They've accepted the portal, and they are ready to be giving us the information for updates, to update the portal promptly compared to the time when they give out the hard copy to the students.
Thank you, Lillian. Gloria, just to clarify, the comment that we would like is maybe especially on the issue of the cost of internet. Now that there is all the fiber and everything, what maybe the government is doing to ensure the lowering of the cost of internet. But we'll come to you.
Just some to comment. I'm very impressed by the work done by Ryan, and I believe that such a solution can be replicated everywhere, especially when it is customized to the local need. If you are dealing with maybe farmers' community, provide internet, but with some application that is relevant for them. If you can get maybe information about market prices, commodities, to get the good seeds or whatever, the climate, I think these are some of the stuff they need. If it comes to the health matters, maybe develop some application that could really contribute to improve the life of the local communities. I think this can be replicated and be successful. Now coming to the big data issues, my colleague talked about the election. But I would say that maybe the big data comes from ours, the population, the way we live, how we move, how we eat, our security, how we are administered, how we raise our children, how we educate them. So the data comes from all the activities surrounding all of them. I think this is maybe some adjustment how we can consider the big data dimension. Other than don't have further comment.
Thank you very much. Maybe I was so philosophical in my questions, and still I believe that internet would improve people's life, especially at this moment when public debate is so rampant in our countries. And let us make sure that this resource, internet, is for all the people. And that is why I was saying, who is deciding what amount of internet should be used by a certain person? There are some people somewhere who are deciding for us. Thank you.
I think the questions are great. I'll try to go very quickly in the order that they came. Lorna, you asked about bringing services to Kampala. Thank you for the question. I think eventually SINFA, the social enterprise that we've set up, it's called SINFA Uganda, but the internet division is called Zoom Wireless. I think eventually they will come to Kampala However, at the moment, they are focusing on impact, and they are really just looking at getting into more and more of the rural areas which have an absence of a local service provider that can meet their needs. But eventually, they will be looking to come to Kampala. However, Kampala is so big, it requires a substantial amount of investment. Geographically, it's very broad. It will need so many different clusters of points of presence to be established. So the strategy has to be well thought out before they can actually come. But I know they do have it in their plans to come here. Grace asked the question about sustainability. Actually, sorry, could you please pull up the website again? SIFA Uganda. Grace asked the question about sustainability. Very important question. It's very true. We've seen so many cases in the past. Up there, scroll up to the top and then click on team. About us, team. Yeah, our team. So what we've done is we've set up a social enterprise. The company is called SIFA Uganda. That's the first thing that we did when we came on board. Before we did anything else, we started the process of establishing a local company, social enterprise. It's a for-profit company, but its articles and its memorandum restrict it from allowing or from giving any of its profits to the shareholders. Any money it makes has to go back into the company and go out into expansion and into social good. So if you look there, you have, that's the team. You have Peter Koning, he's a Dutch national. He's the chairman. Actually, he's the outgoing chairman. He's actually in Uganda right now. Today, sitting in a board meeting where he's handing over to a Ugandan who is taking over from him, a gentleman called Mr. Herbert Wamala. Then you have Dr. Joseph Walusimbi, he's the CEO. You have Walter Baingana, Chief Operations. If you scroll down, you'll be able to see the rest of the team. I won't read through their names, but this is kind of like the management team that we've been able to recruit locally, and they are the ones running the social enterprise that we have established that will continue all of these things that we have started. I'm actually in the process right now, almost finished handing over, and I'm in the process now of just tying up some of the few loose ends. By November, I'll be out of Gulu. Actually, I'm looking for a job. If there's anybody here who has an opportunity, let me take this opportunity to announce my availability. Come November, I'll be looking for something to do. So, talk to me over coffee if you think I might be able to add value. So, yeah, but in all truth, Oxfam has actually withdrawn from the project more or less because now the enterprise is up, it's running. They're making enough money to cover their overheads so far. Out of the BPO, the key revenue drivers right now are the BPO and the internet services. With those two, they're making enough money to pay all the salaries for these as well as all the different employees working in the centers. They have a complete staff complement of 45 right now. They're making enough money to pay all the bandwidth costs, to pay rent. They have a big office in Gulu. I think rent is about $2,000 a month. They're paying for everything themselves. And we're very excited about it. And we're leaving them there without a shadow of doubt in our mind that they will continue to do all these good things as long as the corporate governance is handled right. So excellent question. And I would say that the sustainability mechanism that would need to be applied in such interventions elsewhere. Look at a social enterprise. Don't be afraid of making profit. Profit is not a bad word. What is done with the profits is what I would say varies. So social enterprises ensure that profits are put back into the company for the benefit of the social objectives. Gloria talked about the situation that she found when she visited us. Actually, I have a little bit of news for you, Gloria, of something that happened since your visit. The quality, we put in place some structural changes in terms of the quality management for BPO. The quality of BPO work in Gulu went so high that the primary provider of work to us, the company called Samasos, who also had a delivery center here in Kampala and a few in Kenya and Nigeria and Vietnam, has been taking work away from those centers and giving them to us. in Gulu. Can you imagine? And these kids have been doing a wonderful job. So, you know, we're so happy about it. Ali talked about the new breed of African social entrepreneur. Excellent. That's exactly what's happening. I think one of the things that we can say that we are willing to share is the business model. Huh? There is an opportunity. In fact, yesterday I was talking to some young guys during the cocktail, and I was telling them, guys, you won't believe how affordable it is to be able to go out there and set up an ISP in your village, in your town, and you make money. You make a lot of money. The backbone fiber is there. The government has done their part. I think almost, if I'm not wrong, Gloria, I think is it 85 or 90% of the towns in Uganda are connected on the fiber. It runs all the way. And with phase 3, which is just being rolled out soon, it will be 100% of the towns in Uganda. So it's sitting there waiting for somebody to come and use it. And the costs that the government has actually put in place for backhaul capacity to Kampala and also bandwidth are so low that you know, you can get the benefits. Nathan talked about connecting countries like Southern Sudan. Yes, our neighbors really are in need. It's a new country, they have so many challenges. Unfortunately, the situation, at least over the last 18 months or so, has actually forced away development, because it's very hard to do anything in a country where there's so much conflict. So I think the first thing we need to do first of all is get on our knees and pray that there's going to be peace in South Sudan so that we can all be able to engage. I sat down last year in Tanzania. Actually, we were together in the same conference with my brother here. It was called the Connect to Connect conference, and I met the Minister of ICT, Rebecca, of Southern Sudan, and she shared their challenges, and she made a very strong appeal for support and for help. Unfortunately, shortly after she went back home, the chaos broke out. And since then, we've not been able to do much. But the needs are there. It's a crying shame. We need to, as much as possible, see how we can reach out our hands and support our brothers. The young man, you did introduce yourself. You asked a question about submarine cables and the clarification on pricing. Can internet be free? I would say, strictly speaking, there is a price that has to be paid somewhere along the line. But the pricing in terms of wholesale capacity is so low that you find in some situations, it is possible to give away internet for free as long as there's a side benefit. I'll talk about Starbucks or Java Cafe, Java's Cafe here in Kampala. You go there, you browse the internet for free, right? As long as you're eating something. So, we may begin to see similar situations where people will actually be giving internet for free just so that they can draw the traffic of people coming to them. But the truth is that the prices are so low. The wholesale bandwidth prices are extremely low. There's no reason why we should be paying these high prices that we pay, but it's going to take a lot of consumer action, it's going to take a lot of regulatory intervention maybe, but it's mostly the consumers who will be able to drive the prices down. But also entrepreneurs. There are some of you sitting here or others elsewhere who might be able to say, okay, let's break this stranglehold that these guys have on us, start up here in Kampala, buy the bulk capacity at low prices, provide services at a low price, and still make money.
Thank you very much. Maybe from the perspective of government, what is government doing to reduce the cost? We know that it's still a challenge, and many companies, many entrepreneurs are still facing the same. So like Brian said, what government has done is make sure that we bring the backbone closer to the people. Closer to all towns in Uganda now are connected to the backbone. So what we have done through NITA does a bulk purchase of internet bandwidth, and then you subscribe to NITA. NITA, when you're running on the backbone, so the price that is tagged to is very, very minimal compared to if you went out there to buy. So that is one way of how we are trying to reduce on the cost of internet bandwidth. And then on the other, there are other projects also that are being undertaken, especially through the Northern Corridor. I know those of you who were here yesterday heard a lot about it. We are trying to work with the East African region, including South Sudan too, through the Northern Corridor project, in order to bring access even to South Sudan and connect all the borders, and even reduce on the data costs as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria. Thank you, our panelists, for sharing your knowledge and experience with us. At this point, I will hand over back to Gloria. Thank you very much also for your listening and your participation.
Let's give them a round of applause for the work done. Thank you. Thank you, Grace. Thank you, panelists. We are going